Hey everybody, this is Catalin and this is another episode of our special Q&A. Today what I want to do is I want to take time because I had a lot of questions from you guys regarding and asking me about the interview I did with Bob Proctor. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's amazing. People told me it's amazing. I don't know what I have to say about that. Anyways, your response has been amazing. Thank you so much for all the responses. I've had like 300 comments, 500 direct messages on Insta, like so much stuff happening because of that. And I'm really grateful for it. I'm also really grateful because as you can see, I have my Russian mobster kind of shirt on me. I don't even know what was the name of this in English, but anyways, I think this is pretty cool, pretty badass. For today's Q&A, what I want to do is I want to take a couple of you guys' questions. I've noted them down on a piece of paper that I think were really interesting. And I want to read them out loud and respond them for all of you guys watching that were curious about how did the interview actually happen, how did they go and everything. So let's get into the questions. Question number one. I actually got this through a direct message on Instagram, and it was really interesting because this is something I really care about. The question was, what does abracadabra mean? Right? And this is something that I think me and Bob talked about in between like in 15 minute or something, like between that kind of space. And we talked about how you picture something in your mind, then you create it. And in Hebrew, this word, it's called abracadabra, that essentially means what you say becomes. So let me show you something. So I've got this interesting poster and it's kind of a visual representation of abracadabra. And this is my answer to the question. So check this out. Essentially, I believe, and Bob Proctor kind of talked about this in the interview as well, that there's two worlds that we're in. One of them is our imaginary world. This is our potential. This is the spiritual world where everything is infinite. We have infinite potential as human beings. We all know that, right? And this is our present, the reality, right? And what you can see from here to here is actually something going from your imaginary world, from your mind, from your image, to actually taking that into actually physical being. I think the most fascinating thing that we can learn, I have not figured it out, right? Like most people say, the highest amount of wealth is in the cemetery, right? Mainly because a lot of people have this immense idea and vision of how to do things, but they never actually get to do it. You can check the interview for more info. Basically, my take on it, and then Bob had an amazing take, is what stops us from going from our imaginary world to our physical world is fear, the inability to go towards our fears, the things that we don't want to do, to actually go and improve ourselves, continuous learning and all these things. And if you manage to figure out this process of taking things from one sphere to another, it's probably one of the most interesting skills you can master. And for me, this is probably my highest motivation. So that's what abracadabra means. It means what you say becomes. That's why magicians say it, but they don't really do that. You know, it's kind of magic. But if you want to do that in real life, you can really do it. You know, it's just that magic in real life takes a lot more time. So that's the answer. Next question came from Facebook and came from Al-Mahdi Amtun. I'm sorry, Al-Mahdi, if I spelled the name wrong. Let me see where you're from. You're from Washington. Good stuff. I've talked to my friend on Messenger and he asked me the following. What were your biggest takeaways from meeting Bob? Love your stuff and try. Okay, thank you. I have 3 of them. I have noted them down. One of them, and this is amazing. One of them, and the first one, is the depth of vibe. And this is really interesting because, and this actually continues with the second one, but here's how the story went. So it was that morning, I was supposed to have the interview with Bob, and I was preparing my questions to be planned out, and everything was perfect, right? Like, how would you, if you would have an interview with like somebody like that, you would prepare, right? I did. And I prepared everything, I thought about it, and then when I shook his hand, I felt that his depth of vibe was so out of what I could have expected. He was so intense that I realized in the next second I just couldn't have asked any of my questions. And it was so interesting, you know, just because I took the time to apply that empathy to the situation, I realized that his vibe was so intense that just asking my questions that I thought were interesting is not going to matter. So what did I do? I asked him exactly what I felt in that moment. So I had to wing it for an hour and 15 minutes on an interview that was kind of important. And that's what I did, and ended up pretty well. And I think that was really interesting. So number one is depth of vibe. Number two, and these two are kind of connected. Bob had so much certainty and so much, he didn't really care about anything, you know? Like, people were like, I felt like I could have done like a 3 backflip in front of him and he would be like, cool. Like, he was so unshakable, and this connects to the depth of vibe thing, but it's interesting. So that's takeaway number 2. He was really unshakable, didn't really care about anything that was happening. He had so much certainty in his mind that it was interesting how that happened and materialized. And number 3, and this is kind of a practical one, is his commitment to learning. And he talked about this with me before and after the interview, and in the interview, he's waking up every single morning, learning. That's all he does in his mornings. And I think that's because he's 80, you know? Like, what would you do if you were 80? Would you learn 3 hours a day? You won't, right? And what does that tell you about you, you know? Like he said, we're not made for work. Work is made for us. So what does that mean? Is that you're not learning because you want to advance, because you gotta do it. You're learning because you want to work, not work wants you. You know what I mean? So those are my 3 takeaways. Next question. This came from Instagram land. Catalin, this video was inspirational. Thank you. When Bob analyzed your personality and said you're very capable with both sides of your brain, what did you think? And how were you able to use to ask him how to use this best in your life and business? Interesting. Here's the thing. So at the end of the interview, Bob told me something. I found this really fascinating. He told me that he kind of analyzed me throughout the interview, which I expected. I do that all the time with people. But he does it better, obviously. And he told me, like, you seem to be the kind of person that really has both sides of his brain turned on, and you have something that's really, really good. And I was like, okay, interesting. At the moment, I was like kind of in a shock position, so I did not really internalize it. But after the fact, after a couple of hours, I kind of sat down and thought about that because it had a little emotional impact on me. And what I realized is what he really meant, I think. I don't know, I haven't asked him, I have to be honest, haven't asked him about it. Like, oh, Bob, by the way, like, what do you think of that? It was a pure compliment, I hope. What I think is the case is that he has seen that, like any other person, I have planned everything before. I had every single thing kind of laid out for the interview to happen. And what did I do in the interview? Completely did what felt right in the moment based on his vibe and our current vibe. And that's what I think he meant, because all of us are intelligent. All of us have a pretty good logical side. What most of us kind of skip, it's our emotional kind of right side, brain oriented, which is listening to people, empathy based things, and kind of being able to take that vulnerability in front of people, you know, because like this is a small thing, like going off with the flow and not having questions, but I think we do that all the time. We try to do what we want to do and we just don't care if there's a better way. We're just so tunnel vision on what we have to do. And that's what I think he meant, but who knows? Gotta ask him. I'm gonna tweet him right now. He doesn't tweet, but maybe he'll answer it. His team will answer it though. Any case, that was the Q&A. Hope you like it. Hope you like my Russian shirt. You can tweet it. You can Instagram it. It's pretty cool. I'm not selling it. Only for $1 million. Not even for $1 million. So take my words back for that. Hope you like the Q&A. Again, if you want to have your questions answered in the next episode, please pop them below or send them to whatever social media channel. I'm going to pick the best ones and answer them. Thank you for watching. See you next time. One thing I would love to know is that there's a lot more things that are involved in a business that I know of.